Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Craft Eccentricity. And I hope everyone's going to have an awesome day today. Right, today I want to do a little card, and I want to use some stuff that I haven't had the opportunity to use yet. So this is like personal haul items. So I want to do a sort of flower card, and I'm going to use a sheet of the Walmart watercolour cardstock, which may not look so apparent now. I just put it down on my grey mat, but there it is. It's got a lovely tooth on it. Really, really lovely stuff. It's about, I think it's about $10.99 or something, but you get a lot of sheets and it's excellent thick quality. Right, I'm also going to use a stencil that I haven't had the opportunity to really use yet, and that's a brick wall. The dies that I want to use are a little geranium die and the little plant pot. So the geraniums are going to go in the plant pot, and the background there is going to be that stencil. I'm going to use a Panalisa sentiment, and there was one here I saw. There it is. Cultivate kindness. That's the one I'm going to use because, you know, when you're out in the garden, you're cultivating, aren't you? So I just thought cultivate kindness would look really sweet as a sentiment to pop on that plant pot. I'm going to use a Surprise Creation mini slimline, and I'm going to use the largest one in the plain set. Now these come as double sets, and the other one in this set is the torn edge. I just pop them all in together, but I'm using the plain one today. I'm going to be using a Rustic Wilderness and Barn Door. That's going to be my geranium. And then for my wall and my pot is going to be in old paper. And I'm going to completely coat the background of my mini slimline in old paper, and then I'm going to go over it with fired brick. So that's going to be my brick wall, and it's going to be a very traditional one, and you can see those colours are quite close together, and that's fine by me. And I've got my little foamy pads which I store in these tubes, so I can see my barn door there is right next to my fired brick, and along here somewhere I've got a there it is, Rustic Wilderness. So, you know, these are big long tubes that just stand on my shelf, and all my foam pads are inside. And I've really enjoyed actually organising those. And I just stick labels on them, you know, I spin them around. Nothing's particularly neat, but I just know where everything is. And there's the old paper. And of course I'm going to use a blendy tool, but first of all I'm going to go off and I'm going to die cut my watercolour cardstock, because the background and my die cuts are all going to be in the same paper, and I'll be back in a minute. Right, so I went and did my die cutting, and I've cut all my little flowers, leaves and pot out, but I'm going to try and scoop all those into one area and pop them down here out of the way for a second. Don't want to bend all my stems up. And whoop, ooh, I got some static, and just pop those there, because the first thing that I want to do is the old paper and fired brick for the background. So just get those out. Right, so here is my background, and I'm working on my grey silicone mat today, so I hope things are visible. First of all, I just want to cover the whole thing in old paper, so I'm getting my old paper here, if I can find it, and it's not in that tube, it's in this tube. And old paper is a funny colour. It's almost a beigey green. Can you see that? You can see what colour it is, kind of like dingy on the ends, but it's got a sort of like green tint to it. So I've just got that out of there and popped it onto my blending tool, and it's only oxide inks that I'm using today. So just going to totally cover the backgrounds with this. And these are AliExpress blending foams that I'm using. I love them. They're nice and cheap. And so I'm just going on here, and it doesn't matter if you're a little bit fadey in some places, because you know it's a brick wall, and brick walls are not perfect because obviously they get weathered. So that's looking kind of creamy down there. When I lift it up and tip it into the light, I don't know if you can see that, but I can definitely see hints of green in it. So I'm just going to wear out whatever is on this blending foam and just go round and round and round. So I've no longer got a white background. It is an old paper background, and you can see that it's a little bit blobby and shady, and that's okay. Right, I need to clean my mess up because we're going in with another colour. This is just a squirty bottle from Dollar Tree, and I just keep a little drop of water in there at all times so that I can just, you know, get my mess up so that I'm not putting my ink down in places where I don't want it. Right, so that's cleaned up. And now I'm going into fired brick, and I'm going to use my stencil. Now, this is really a perfect fit for a mini slimline. And as always, if these things are still available, then I will link them below. But you can see it's just hanging off the edges, just a little fraction, but off the edges where it doesn't matter. So as always, I'm not fixing anything down, and I know it's naughty and that I should, but you know, that's me. And if I slip, it's my own fault. Right, so my old paper has gone back into there, and it will keep my foamy pad nice and juicy. And now I need to go in here and find fired brick, which is here. And I'm just going to pick that up and take it out. So that's my fired brick. I'm just going to rest that out of the way. And I'm hoping that this is all in camera. And I'm going to get it straight, of course, before I start doing anything. Because you don't want a wonky brick wall. Not unless your building's falling down. Right, so fired brick and into there. Just pick up some ink. You can be really, really vivid, or you can just sort of like tap this down. It's entirely up to you. Right, so I'm holding that down, and I'm going to show you, because you can just tap your wall so that it's speckled. See that? But I don't want that. I want it to be more solid, so I'm just gently stroking along the stencil, because if you go round and round, it can kind of like wreck your foam, because stencils have got harsh edges. Well, you know, nothing that's going to cut you, but it would certainly sort of like scruff your foam pad up. And you can see I'm still hanging on to it, and I'm getting some more ink. And I'll just move my fingers down. And one of the things that I do want to do with this is run all the ink out of it. And I'll show you the reason for that in a second. So there we go. Do you know, it's quite chilly here this morning. And I'm just hoping I haven't gone too quiet on my mic. Right, so I think that's about it for my wall. It's not totally saturated. There we go. Lift that up. And, you know, it's brick wally, but it's not brick wally. So I want to do something about that. And that is, I want to use up whatever is on here now to kind of darken up what's going on between my bricks. So very, very gently going over it. And I am darkening up my fired brick. It makes it a little bit softer, and then it takes away that harsh contrast of the old paper. and I hope that's showing up. See what I mean? We've kind of blended it out, made it more dirty. So it's just very, very gently how I'm doing this. And there's a little bit left there, so you can kind of like see the contrast, but I'm still going to go into that bit. So we're just knocking back the shade of old paper, but we haven't got any stark white going on there. There, I'm quite happy with that. That's my little bit of brick wall, looking a lot better than, you know, very, very stark contrasts in the bit that's supposed to be the mortar. Right, so background done, and now I've got to do the flowers. So I'm just going to pause while I clean this up. Right, so that mess has been tidied up, and this is the background now, and it's looking, you know, a lot softer than just having the old paper. So I'm just going to pop that there for a second, and next we're going to work on the plant pot. Now I've decided I'm doing this in old paper because there's tones within this that you'll see as I start that will pick up, and it just blends in nicely. So I'm just loading this up again, and I have got quite a bit on here. And if you're somebody who likes to shade your pots, you know, then you can go in certainly heavier in one direction or use a different colour to cast a shadow. But I'm just going to go over the whole thing in old paper. If you can see that. Ah, that's better. So I've just gone over the whole thing there, and it also has a saucer. So if I dig around in this little pile, there it is. It's got its little drip saucer. So I'm just going to go up and down on that as well. Now I personally feel that there should be some shadow here, and I didn't get my black soot, so I'm going to go and fetch that, and I'll be straight back. Right, so I've just grabbed my black soot and my black soot foam here, and here it is. Now I don't want to put too much. This is I wouldn't actually call this black, to be honest. It's not like oxide. To me it's more of a very sort of charcoal grey, and you'll probably see that in a second. Right, so I think my light is going to come from the left, so I'm going to just darken it up slightly on the right. So first of all, I just want to grab the edges and think about how the light is going to affect my pot. Can you see that? So I've put that down, and then I want to come across it a little bit more, really, really gently. And that's my husband in the background. So I'm just going along there. Hope you can see that. So we're casting a very, very subtle shadow. It's going to be a lot darker down there. And now I've worn off some of that black soot, I can come up here, darken up this edge, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to pop that on there so you can see how the tone, even though it's been blended out with the fired brick, is still kind of like showing towards that pot there. And then with this, it's going to have a shadow cast here. So I'm going there, and then I'm going along here. I'm holding it up in the air in the hope that you can see it and I'm not totally blurred. And then I'm going to go along the bottom. So I'm going to hold that up in my hand because I don't know what my camera's doing. There we go. So it's kind of, you know, dingy. That's better. So you're just casting your shadow on your pot. So that's those two bits done. I'm going to tidy up my mess and we'll come back and do the flowers. Right, I've actually dropped my camera right down in the hope that you're going to be able to see a lot better, and I'm doing my flowers in barn door. So I'm just putting my foamy pad into that and putting lots on. Now some of these pieces are quite small, so first of all I'm just going to splodge them. And I've got a little piece escaping there. You know, little things like that can be hard to hold, so you're better off just putting lots of ink on your foam and squishing them quite literally. So I'm going to be lovely and red at the end of this. But you can see exactly what I'm doing here, and I'll be right back. Right, so I've done all of the little red bits and popped them up here, and what I've got left needs to be done in green, and I'm using Rustic Wilderness, and I'm just going to do exactly the same thing again. You know, foam pad into my ink pad. I'm getting up loads of ink there, and once again these aren't the biggest pieces, so I'm just tapping down. And I will go over them so that they're thoroughly saturated, but just stroke your stems very gently so that you're not creasing them, and tap down on those too. Right, I'm going to finish my green bits and then it's, you know, come back and put it all together. Right, so I've done all of those, but I've decided that I want to darken the edges of my leaves, so I'm just going very gently, not too much if you know what I mean, with a little bit of black soot just on the edges there so that they'll stand out with a little bit more definition from everything else. So I actually coloured these in exactly the same way as I did the flowers, and I just squished my tool down on top to make sure that there was some good coverage going on. And my stems, I don't think I need to really bother with those. I'm just going to let them be as they are. So now I need to put this together before I put it on the card, because I want to elevate the pot with some foam pads. So I've got my Dollar Tree glue here, and the first thing that I want to do is put my flowers together. So I'm hoping that you can see this. Try and move some stuff up. And these flowers will actually pop from behind, so you can pop them up. Can you see that? Now it's entirely up to you if you want to do that, but you can see the cuts from behind where you can just gently push them up and get a little bit more 3D. So I've got little white bits of paper hanging out there, so I'm just going to just push a couple of them, not all of them, just so that it's got a little bit more dimension. And I might actually hit those edges with a little bit of black soot too. I'm just going to pop a couple up. There we go. Right, now then, going for my black soot, I'm just going to hold it very gently and just touch those up. Do you know, one of my favourite geraniums has to be the one that's the most expensive, and it's kind of a black red. It's really, really dark. And I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I do keep buying those and trying to grow those. But, you know, it comes to the middle of the summer and they just bake. Even if I put them in the shades, they just kind of like die on me. So, I mean, other geraniums I'm absolutely fine with. But these really, really dark cherry red ones, I just seem to have no success at all. Right, I'm going to just go with those. And I've got lots of stems here which I can glue my flowers to. I'll just move the leaves out of the way, and just basically build up and decide where you're going to have those flowers. So we've got 4 areas here, and I do have my pickup tool, which I still haven't sharpened, but it is looking, you know, a little bit better than the last time you saw it. And I'm just going to dot those there, and I'm going to try and just space them out there. I'll put that one there for a second, and then I'm just going to put a blob of glue in the middle of each of those pieces that I've just put down, and then I'm going to cross over. So where you're putting it is where you're going to sort of like have your layers. So if I put that one there, that means the other layers are going to cross over in front of it. And then I think I might use a white gel pen. I've got a little bit of dried on glue there. A white gel pen right at the end, just to highlight the centres of those flowers. Right, get that one straight. Not doing a very good job with that one. And of course having glue on your fingers doesn't help. There, I'm going to squish that into position. And then I've got that one overlapping that one. And that one needs to go there. So that's kind of like one little spray of geraniums that would be poked up in the air. And I'm just going to move that one out of the way. And I've got a little bit of damp kitchen paper here to get that little bit of glue up. And now onto these bits here, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to position these, but I do know that I'm going to glue some of these on the top for definition, and you can bend them up with your fingers before you use them. And I think I'm going to have one, yeah, I'm going to use the dominant pieces because I did cut extras. You don't have to use them all. And I'm going to pick that up with my fingers and just stick that on there so that I've got some bits that are just poking up in the air. Yeah, let's put that one there. And then I'm going to do this one and this one. And that there. Whoops. And put that piece into there. And then on here, I think I'm just going to stick just 2 of these down and poke that one up and put one down flat. So I'm just going to utilise the top section of that and put that one down. Little bob of glue in there. And then this one that I've bent up, I'm going to put that one down. Right, I'm just going to let those dry and I'll be right back. Right, I think they're dry enough, and I've got my white gel pen here, and as always I'm always showing you run it out onto something warm and it will get the ink flowing. And I'm just going to put a little dot of white into where the centres of my flowers would be. So I'm just going all over the place really. And just a little tiny speck of white into those middles, just to highlight them up a bit. I hope you can see that. And I've popped that down there. And then really it's just a matter of flower arranging. So first thing I'm going to do is put the stems in before the leaves so that I can see the kind of height and configuration that I've got going on in my pot. And I want these big ones to be, you know, down at the base, I think. So if I move my pot up a bit. Hopefully you can see that. And I want this one maybe a little bit lower, hanging onto the edge there. And I don't know, maybe that one in front, that one behind. Whoops. So I'm kind of going to show you my configuration, and then I'm going to glue it. Oop, that one isn't dried on there yet. Give that a little press. So I've got a little bit of flour just touching down on the pot. And then my leaves, I think I'm going to have a big one there. And just layer those up. I mean, it can be quite easy to forget how a flower looks when, you know, not in season. I know maybe I should have printed off a photograph or something. But I'm going to glue mine into its pot a bit like that, and I'll be right back. Right, so I've glued that down there, and you can see all the little white dots for the geraniums. Pop the leaves on, we've got the little bit of shade, and what I want to do is flip it over, and you can always see from behind it looks an awful mess, but we're going to use some foam dots because I want this to be 3D, and I always put my dots where they're going to support anything delicate. And then pick it up and make sure that you've got, you know, no foamy pads showing on that side, which is good. So your foam pads will hold all that into position. And then I'm just going to, I think I'm going to put one in the centre there as well. And then I'm going to go off to an angle and do the same on the other side. So you can basically see there from the reverse what the construction is. I did change the background paper because I just felt that my grey mat just looked awful. Now I can just grab my scissors and slice these down, get a couple of thin strips here, and pop behind the geranium to give that a little bit of support on the card. And then the other little piece that flew off, I can do that behind the other geranium, which will also support that. I'm not going to be really bothered about that little bit. That can float around in the air if it wants to. But I'm going to peel this off now, and then just decide the height that you want it on your card. And I think I'm going to use my sentiment strip, you know, kind of like looking like a little bit of graffiti on the wall. So that's off there. I can pick that up and flip it over. All of those bits are held securely in position. If I put that there, I hope that you can see, and I certainly hope that I'm getting it straight. So I'm resting that down there. I'm going to go there. So I've got my little plant pot with my brick wall. And then right at the beginning, I showed you these, and I wanted cultivate kindness. So I'm just going to grab that one out. I did show you these the other day. You get, I'm just reminding myself, 528 pieces, which is a huge amount. And then I want this to be straight, so I think I'm going to go about there. I might need to move it down. I think that's straight. Excuse me while I'm just pulling it towards myself just for a minute. So I've got cultivate kindness, and I've got my little plant pot, and I'm wondering if I should add anything else. Learn and grow, there's a good one. So I'm going to pop that Don't know, where should I put that? I'm going to put that in my pot. Yeah, maybe there. It's always really hard for me to know if I've got something in the centre and if it's straight. So I've got learn and grow and I've got cultivate kindness, which to me are two little sentiments, you know, that kind of express what's going on down there. So if I pick that up, you can see that you've got your shadow, you've got your little dots, you've got your geranium, you've got your cultivate kindness, and you've got your little bit of stenciling. Right, well, that was my fun make for today, and I do thank you so much for watching. As usual, if I can find them, all links will be below, and I'll see you tomorrow with who knows what. Bye.